Gentlemen of the New York Islanders, put your razors away. News breaking not that long ago here, if you're watching or listening live, that Lou Lamoriello's contract will not be renewed. The search begins by John Collins for a new general manager for the New York Islanders. We'll see what this means for Patrick Waugh and the entire hockey operations department. But in the meantime, on a day where we're probably supposed to be talking about hockey games, we'll try to get to them, we promise. And there were some great ones last night. Like, last night was a fantastic night of hockey. Every single game delivered. But we're going to start the show off by talking about Lou Lamoriello, because it is the big news of the day right now. So let's get right to the Daily Outlines and what we have coming up on the program today. Daily Outlines, powered by FanDuel, make every moment more with North America's number one sportsbook. North America's number one sportsbook app provider is our friends and presenters here at The Sheet, FanDuel. Coming up on the program today, Greg Wyshynski will stop by as he always does every Tuesday. It is a very topical day to talk about the Islanders and to talk about the Devils and the Vancouver Canucks and things like tampering. Tampering is going to come up. The Battle of Florida is going to come up. And we'll start the show by talking about Lou Lamoriello, done with the New York Islanders. I know the NHL doesn't like it when big news drops on game day, but what are you going to do? Teams need to get business done. With that, we'll bring in the one and only from ESPN, our favorite around these parts, Greg Wyshynski, who joins me now for MvsW here on Tuesday. Greg, how are you taking this news of Lou Lamoriello? And let me couch it this way: the whispers have been out there for a while. This has been discussed in hushed tones for a number of months now. But everybody knows when you're dealing with the New York Islanders under Lou Lamoriello, if anything gets out, it's over. And that topic gets extinguished. Anyhow, Lamoriello is out as general manager of the Islanders, to which Greg Wyshynski says what?
I'm moderately surprised because I didn't really know where ownership stood with the current state of the team. You know what I mean? There was talk about Scott Malkin becoming more involved. There was always a sense of deference to Lou and his building of the team. I mean, for those who don't know, Lou Lamoriello helped design the arena. He helped design the bowels of UBS Arena to better fit what he felt the team needed. So he's a very important person for this ownership group, a very important person for this franchise. But at some point, business talks, money talks, ticket sales talk, jersey sales talk. And the fact of the matter is that by tripling and quadrupling down on the same roster of, let's call them somewhat underwhelming veterans with diminishing returns, and not playing a style of play commiserate to what this league needs in this day and age, I think the writing was on the wall that they were going to go in a different direction. But you're always a little bit surprised when Lou Lamoriello doesn't have a job, aren't you?
Yeah, you are, and that's why I think that, and again, the statement from the Islanders was pretty terse. I thought it would, to be honest with you, I thought it would be a little bit more flowery, but the Islanders putting this one out around 2:20 Eastern this afternoon. The New York Islanders organization announced today that Lou Lamoriello's contract as president and general manager will not be renewed. Effective immediately, operating partner John Collins will lead a search to find the next general manager. The Islanders extend a heartfelt thank you to Lou Lamoriello for his extraordinary commitment over the past 7 years. His dedication to the team is in line with his Hall of Fame career. So it's a couple of short sentences. I did think that this would be a little more flowery, unless, and this is what I do wonder too, this is just the way that Lou Lamoriello wanted to do it. I think this is when you have someone like Lou Lamoriello, doing something like this has to be handled sensitively. And I wonder if this was a situation where essentially ownership went to Lou and said, this is the decision that's been made. How do you want to do this? How do you want to handle this? That's how I can see this one going down.
Do you think that it's possible they came to him and said, this is a decision that was made. We're willing to put you into some emeritus role in the organization, but you won't have any real power. And he said, peace out, I'm done.
Maybe. I could see that.
They have enormous respect for the guy. They have enormous respect for him. It's interesting. You mentioned the Patrick Waugh of it all. I mean, I think that opens up a door to what happens with him. I mean, not only with the new general manager, but also with him not having Lou there. I mean, Lou recruited him to be the head coach of the New York Islanders. Does he become the general manager of the New York Islanders? Let's pause on that for a second.
I did think about that
what could
too.
happen there.
The names that we're all going to hear, the names that we're all going to hear, and in various roles too. Let's not forget, like there's a manager position. There'll also be other executive positions in the Islanders organization here to fill. Ken Holland's name is always out there when their general manager avails. Matthew Darsh's name is always out there when there are GM avails. I know things didn't go swimmingly for the New York Rangers this year. Surprise, surprise. Not that that's a headline, but I do wonder about Ryan Martin as a potential here as well. Marc Bergevin, his name is out there. One of your colleagues, Kevin Weeks, has been in and around various organizations and has interviewed for key positions. Steve Pellegrini's been there forever, and I've always wondered if that could be a role for Steve Pellegrini. I wonder about Bill Scott, who's the assistant GM. I'm just going to name everybody here. Of the Edmonton Oilers, Brandon Pridham, who helped, you mentioned, Lou helped help build the UBS. He was also one of the architects of the salary cap, as was Brandon Pridham, who's probably ready to take that next step in his career. He's assistant GM with the Maple Leafs. So there's going to be no shortage of names here to draw from, but I just don't think that it's going to be maybe one position that gets filled. I kind of have the feeling that it's going to be a couple here. It's going to be a GM and some other executives brought in. Just based on what people have mentioned to me.
So you're thinking young GM and then a president of hockey operations.
Could be. I would not be surprised with that lineup. No, with that ladder. No, I wouldn't be surprised. Would you?
No.
I think just to be blunt here. I mean, everyone's sensitive because Lou is such a respected figure in hockey. This is an organization that needs a personality. Lou's thing has always been, the logo is the personality, the wins are the personality. That's how we do things here. But this is an organization that needs an identity and needs a personality. One that's not just varsity club. The logo is more important than the nameplate. So that's why I wonder if someone that they bring in, and this is where I wonder about someone like Kevin Weeks, who has a dynamic personality, understands the game, etc. I know it might be uncomfortable to talk about a colleague, Greg, but that is a name that has been out there and will probably continue to be out there. Knows the league well, obviously. Had a brief stint with the Islanders as well, 40 or 50 games. I don't know. I lob that one out there, but I do wonder about someone like either Kevin Weeks or someone like Kevin Weeks, along with someone who's more senior.
I'm friends with Kevin, colleagues, friends, what have you.
Yep.
I've long said that in the pantheon of insiders, there's actually no one more connected than Kevin Weeks.
Very connected.
It is insane the amount of information that floats in his orbit. I will say, it's no secret he's talked to teams in the past, and it's also no secret that his lack of experience within organizations, I think, has worked against him. Personally, I don't think that should be disqualifying. I'm all for people from the outside coming in, but teams traditionally like a more traditional path. You're the assistant GM, then you're the GM, you're the GM of the AHL team, then you're the GM. That's how they'd like it to work. And I don't think it should. I think they should take more chances on people that don't follow a traditional path, says the guy who wrote a blog and now is the senior writer for ESPN. But that's just how it works. I'm intrigued. So John Collins is running the search.
Yes.
And John Collins, for those that don't know, if you've heard the name Steve Mayer, the guy who, that does all the outdoor games, all the events for the NHL. John Collins was Steve Mayer before Steve Mayer showed up. He was the guy who was sort of
super
pioneer of that position and helped start the Winter Classic and things like that. Brilliant guy. Good businessman. I'm intrigued to see what direction he wants to go. I think the fact that John Collins is leading this search should indicate perhaps that the next general manager of the New York Islanders will be someone who intends to ice a more entertaining product than they currently have. John Collins is there to help make the organization money. John Collins is there to maximize revenue streams. I'm not saying that hockey won't be paramount in this decision, But I do think, like you, Marek, a general manager with a little bit of personality and who wants to give this franchise a little bit more personality is something that I think will be top of mind for John Collins in the search.
Can he keep Matthew Barzal healthy? Is my question about John Collins. And also, here's the other thing about Matthew Barzal. Because so much of this announcement to me and the future of the New York Islanders to me is wrapped around one of the great personalities in the NHL that nobody knows about. Matthew Barzal is one of the most dynamic, entertaining people. Well, one of the most dynamic, entertaining players on the ice and really entertaining off it as well. But you wouldn't know it. But you wouldn't know it because he plays with the New York Islanders. I think what you're winking at here is things like that could be about to change. And to me, right away, first thing, front and center, get Matthew Barzal out there in front of cameras and microphones. If I'm whichever general manager comes in next.
You have a fairly recently constructed building to fill. And you've been trying to fill it by, keeping Pajot on the roster for 10 years. Yeah. Or whatever. It feels like 10 years. You know what I mean? And it's not to disparage JG Pajot, but to me, this Islanders team made the conference final a couple times during the COVID times. Mm-hmm. Let's not forget about when they were doing this. And then it's been diminishing returns since then. But the reaction from management has not been to radically reshape the roster. The Horvat trade happened. The Romanov thing happened. They've incrementally changed the roster, don't get me wrong, but they've not taken the necessary swings to reshape the style of play, to surround Barzal with better, more dynamic offensive players. There's a ton on the table that's going to be there for the next general manager of the Islanders to accomplish in contrast to the way the team has been run recently. And again, it's a business. They're in a very competitive media market, a very competitive market for your entertainment dollar in a building that has beautiful amenities that need people to come to the game and buy beer at and buy sandwiches at and buy rainbow colored bagels at. They need to do something to change the personality of this organization, and it starts at the top.
Finally get to see Kyle Palmieri with his beard again. Now you're going to get it anyway. He's a free agent, but I'm just thinking to myself, if I'm Kyle Palmieri, I'm like, why now? I don't know. Normally there's an eye adjustment when someone shaves off their beard. Nothing was more profound for me than Kyle Palmieri without a beard, and I never got used to it. Ever got used to it.
Anthony Duclair wasn't more.
I know. There's another one. Yeah, dude, feathers. Come on.
Exactly. So I don't know. Listen, you guys know me. I'm a Devils fan from my youth to now, and Lou will always have a very special place in my heart as the guy who constructed a quasi-dynastic Devils team that won a bunch of cups when I was a kid, and I'll always have time for Lou. I think if I've told this story, it was on the old pod, but in 1995, I was what was I? I was old. I was 15 or something like that.
That's old.
16. Who the hell knows? 17, 18. Who the hell knows? But so the Devils, famously won their first Stanley Cup in 95. I was a senior in high school.
Half a cup, by the way.
Half a cup, according to Rangers fans, because it was a lockout year.
48
and my parents' company, my mom's company that she worked for had season tickets. So occasionally I would get the perk of being able to go to the season ticket events.
Nice.
So I was there. It was the night when all the Devils were there signing autographs at the arena. And it was right after they traded for Neil Broughton.
Oh,
and I was very excited because the Devils needed a center, and Neil Broughton was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
And so I'm a kid. I'm a senior in high school. I bump into Lou Lamoriello in the hallway of the arena, and I say, "Mr. Lamoriello, just wanted to shake your hand." He shakes my hand. I'm just pleasure to meet you. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for finally trading for a center. And this man shot me a death glare. You little shit. Who are you? And then turned heel and walked away.
Oh, that's awesome.
I love that story about Lou. He's the best.
Did you ever share that one with him? I always love sharing the, hey, when I was younger, I said this to you, and I kind of feel stupid about it now.
No,
did you ever share that with him?
traditionally scared shitless of Lou. Like, I respect my peers, and I know a few of the insiders have a relationship where they text him and he texts back and they have a casual conversation. Like, Lou scares me, man. Lou once almost had me soil myself at the arena one day in Jersey when I'm a credentialed member of the media. Yeah. I didn't have my credential on at that point. Like, I wasn't wearing it.
Yeah.
And I'm walking down the hall and Lou motions to one of the security guards and he's just like, "Does this man belong?" And I'm just like, "I've talked to you in the capacity as a reporter. We know each other." And I was like, "Am I going to get thrown on my ass by Lou Lamoriello?"
By Lou Lamoriello?
So yeah,
I love it.
Me.
Well, we'll see what happens there. We'll stay on this story. This is going to be all of a sudden now one of the more interesting stories to follow. Who follows in the footsteps of Lou Lamoriello as general manager of the New York Islanders? You mentioned the New Jersey Devils a second ago. Rick Dhaliwal mentioning on Twitter earlier this afternoon that the NHL is not pursuing tampering charges against Jim Rutherford for musing about the Hughes boys going to Vancouver. Let me couch this like this. I don't believe for one second that Jim Rutherford went out there yesterday with the intention to tamper with those two players, with the New Jersey Devils. I think that he went out there and, much like Jim does, if you ask him a question, he will give you as thorough an answer as he can and mention that Quinn Hughes wants to play with his brothers. And then thinking to himself, well, that might just be inciting a media storm here, tried to scramble back and said, "But we could bring them here instead," just to try to calm everybody down in Vancouver. To me, it was the classic, got out over your skis a little bit too far and then had to really scramble to stick any kind of decent landing. I don't think he went out deliberately to tamper with the New Jersey Devils. But nonetheless, how did you see the situation yesterday with Jim? I guess you should throw Tom in there as well. You throw Luke in there, Jack, and most notably Quinn Hughes.
It's always fun when we change the rules on the fly in the NHL, like just to fit the situation that we need. Mm-hmm. And now I understand that the tampering rule, which is a little bit muddy to begin with as to what tampering is and when it's enforced and when it's not. There's an amendment to the rule that's the kindly old man amendment, in which if he's a kindly old man that we like, and he goes and talks candidly about the acquisition of players under contract from another team, then we'll give him a pass because maybe he was just speaking extemporaneously about the other team's players under contract.
What? Just let me add one thing here. I thought they were going to rig him up with a big fine as a message sending thing to the rest of the managers because of that memo that was sent out before the season to everybody about tampering specifically and how you are allowed, or more specifically, not allowed to talk about players on other teams. I thought this was going to be one of those, the NHL is going to fine Rutherford massively to send a chill through all men. I really did. Up until I saw that Rick Dhaliwal tweet. And listen, Dhaliwal's plugged in. I'm not disputing him. I really did think that they were gonna fine him. Like, it wasn't gonna be like they were taking away draft picks or anything, but I thought there'd be a fine on this one.
I thought so too, because it was tampering, and that's usually what happens when you tamper. It was hard tampering. It wasn't the soft kind that Chris Drury and James Dolan were. He
never said. Technically, he never said their names. He didn't say Jack and Luke. He could have been anybody.
Yeah, it could have been anybody. Could have been former figure skater Sarah Hughes, for all we know. It could be anybody, really.
Could have been Tommy Hughes.
But here's the thing: like, if you're the Devils, why would you even care about trying to pursue a tampering charge against someone you're going to be actively negotiating a trade with over the next 12, 16 months?
Glad you got us. Glad you got us.
The headline.
My first thought was, if I'm Tom Fitzgerald, you know what I do? What's for lunch? I do nothing, because I know I've got to negotiate with this person.
Yeah.
For
the headline
for
is that Jim Rutherford, on the record, and maybe it's hyperbolic, maybe not, but acknowledge that Quinn Hughes wants to play with his brothers, which means that in the best case scenario, the Canucks get good. and he stays, and maybe one day down the line when they're all in their late mid-30s, Luke will still be like 28, then they all can play together.
Mm-hmm.
The worst case scenario is that he's got himself a Matthew Tkachuk Calgary Flames situation on his hands, in which he is going to lose his best player for nothing in a couple of years because he wants to go play elsewhere. And then you have to figure out what to do about that. And now the good news for Jim and the Canucks is that if they wanted to be proactive about it, and the ultimate destiny for Quinn Hughes is to play for the New Jersey Devils, the Devils have a lot of things you might be interested in. You know, they've got Simone Nemec. I mean, it probably starts with someone named Bratt or Heischer in order to get Quinn Hughes at this point, with the controllable contract and, you know, being the second best defenseman in the league. But they've got a lot of stuff you might like, considering your predicament, which is that you aren't very good and you're trying to figure out what the next phase of the team is going to be post JT Miller divorce. So if you're, you know, Tom Fitzgerald, you're not going to the league and being like, hit this man with a fine.
No.
You're like, kind of the old man, smoke out of turn. Hey, Jimmy, let's talk turkey. You got a problem. I got a solution. Let's figure out how to get all these crazy kids together in New Jersey.
Jim, Tom here. Now, we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way. I'm prepared to wait. Me and my organization are prepared to run the clock out on Quinn Hughes with the Vancouver Canucks.
And the single funniest thing, by the way, was like all of these Canucks fans that heard Jim say, maybe we'll bring Luke and Jack to Vancouver, not in so many words, but it was inferred. Now, all these Canucks fans are like, okay, how the hell do we make this happen? I know. What if we retain 50% on the player that we've said is soft and terrible now, and the reason they had to trade JT Miller because of all the soap opera act drama? What if we then make him the centerpiece of a trade to get Luke and Jack to Vancouver? We'll convince New Jersey to do that. They'll sell a bunch of extra season tickets by having this guy as the replacement for the two most beloved players on the roster. That's what we'll do. That makes sense.
Yeah. See, here's what I wonder about now. Like the minute that I heard Jim talk about that Quinn wants to play with his brothers, my first thought is, okay, going through Quinn's head right now is, my manager just put an expiration date on me here.
No.
How can I still wear this C? When Jim just went out and essentially said, yeah, we're going to try to re-sign him, but it might not be for money. It might not be money. Money might not be enough. He wants to play with his brothers.
Yeah.
The question becomes, how can Quinn wear the C when Jim Rutherford has put an expiration date on him and isn't committed?
Maybe
to the team
Jim was just
long-term.
bored. Maybe
no. You know what I
Jim
think? No.
Like,
here's what I think.
I like. You know, he's like, this has been. You know, I like it so messy. You know, we're the Real Housewives of Vancouver. We've had a soap opera going on for the last 2 years, and then we traded JT Miller. Now we got to. It's getting boring. Let's put a target on the back of our best player and have him become the focal point of media and fan attention. You know, that's a real positive way for the franchise to move forward.
We're just trying to distract away from Rick Tocchet by making an even bigger fire over here.
Yeah.
I do wonder, because this is all sort of like, this is all still like, there's still burning embers from the JT Miller trade and that the saga with Elias Pettersson. And you'll recall, like, the Globe and Mail interview that Jim did, I looked at that and said, okay, that's chumming of the waters for a trade.
Mm-hmm.
One of my first thoughts was, is Rutherford prepping the market for something here? Like, is Rutherford already just sort of planting seeds that, oh yeah, for sure, but you know what, this might be a reality? Is he already sort of planting seeds of something that he's going to do maybe sooner than we all think? Who knows? But I'll tell you one thing. I've heard a lot of uncomfortable laughs in my time. Was there a more uncomfortable laugh? I don't know if we have the clip, Zach, than Patrick Allvin sitting next to Jim Rutherford while he did some light tampering, some very light tampering with the New Jersey Devils, and then sort of looked over at Patrick as he straightened up and, get me off the stage right now. It was like, honestly, wish you've seen, and we've all seen, uncomfortable laughs. Was Allvin's laugh not one of the most uncomfortable laughs you've ever seen?
Sure. I mean, it's not a position you want to be in if you're the GM. Here's the question. If Rick Tocchet stays, if he decides to secure the gigantic bag that'll be coming his way of the franchise does value him this much as a head coach, does that mean that Pettersson has to go?
If Tocchet, well, here's the thing. Here's where it gets complicated. So I'm of the belief that Quinn, who Jim Rutherford is dedicated to trying to keep as a Vancouver Canuck, wants both to stay. He wants Pettersson to stay, and he wants Tocchet to stay. Yes.
Okay.
And removing one from the equation perhaps moves Quinn Hughes that much closer to not being a Vancouver Canuck. There's one of the conundrums here. But it is pretty obvious that Tocchet is not a huge fan of Elias Pettersson.
And it's also obvious that Rick Tocchet is a fan of the Philadelphia Flyers, which is
what I want.
Equation.
Here's what I wonder about. Honestly, this is what I really wonder about. I really wonder about Seattle. And here's why. Rick Tocchet was the original choice in Seattle. Then for whatever reason, that situation went south and they went to Hackstall. But that was Tocchet was supposed to be the original coach of the Seattle Kraken. And I wonder if the timing of the Seattle decision on Dan Bilesma with term on his contract coinciding with Vancouver saying we're going to leave it up to Rick here. I again, like, I don't want to get too grassy knoll on it, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to consider that just a coincidence. You know, like, I always wonder, you know, when teams, like, look at Anaheim. Anaheim just had like a 20-point improvement, and Greg Cronin got punted.
Yeah, because he's not a good coach.
Hold on a second here.
Their goaltending.
Hold on a second here. But how many other things are at play in the market, i.e., who has suddenly become available or indicated that they are available to allow a team to say bye-bye to their coach?
I completely understand what you're saying. I completely
understand.
Like, do you
hang on? Do you see that with Seattle? Do you see that potential with Seattle and Tocchet?
Yes, but more to the point of, okay, Rick Tocchet probably doesn't have as much of a relationship with Ron Francis as he does with Jason Botterill. Like, Botterill was his assistant GM in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's the thread that I find most fascinating here vis-a-vis your theory, which is that there could be somebody that comes available that has a relationship with your current general manager. It's hockey nepotism. We see it all the time. And from that perspective, I could see Tocchet in Seattle because of his relationship with Botterill, assuming he has a good one. Because we never know. We see two names on a roster and we assume that they're buddies, and sometimes they just hate each other, or have no respect for each other.
No, that didn't happen this year at all, anywhere.
And so
DC.
Like, that makes sense from that perspective.
Yeah,
I think two things about Bilesma, and we'll talk about this now. And obviously, I think they're doing availability today, so we haven't really heard definitively what they're selling as the reason for Bilesma. I heard there was definitely some friction there. Bilesma's got a huge ego, and there was some friction internally in the organization with how he wanted to do things, how management wanted to do things. They weren't exactly enamored with him on the NHL level. And the bottom line is that when you make a change at the top, and we'll talk about that change at the top in a second, you know, do you allow the new general manager to have his guy there? And perhaps Bilesma was not Botterill's guy. So not a shock there. The one interesting thing, though, dude, They fired the staff, save for Jessica Campbell. And I found that to be really interesting. Because when you are the new head coach, you surround yourself with your assistant coaches. Every coach does it.
She was with Montreal Valley.
Rare is the assistant coach that gets to remain on staff when a new head coach comes in. Certainly there are examples. In Edmonton, Glenn Gulletson is Connor's guy. Glenn Gulletson will survive through several coaches probably if Connor deems it so. And then there are other examples of this too. For them to be that explicit in keeping her on staff, coming from a coaching regime that was extremely unsuccessful. The Kraken were a bad team this year. Doesn't it feel like they're kind of kicking the ball downfield for the new head coach to make a call on her? Whether it's to take her off the bench and maybe make her the eye in the sky or have her removed completely. Like it seems like the Kraken don't want to make the call about a history-making assistant coach in this instance.
1 year out, someone that doesn't have the same type of history or legacy of success like Bilesma has. This is her one kick at it. I honestly, I really think that Seattle is, this may be just a too simplistic a way to look at it. I really do think that the Seattle Kraken are determined to give Jessica Campbell every single opportunity to succeed.
Right.
And I don't
But
know,
ultimately now they're leaving that decision up to the new head coach, who then has to decide whether to make a very unpopular move or to keep someone on staff that they have no relationship with.
But sometimes, you'll have a situation where the manager will say, okay, you pick one assistant and we pick one assistant. That does happen. That does happen often. And that could be Seattle saying, that's our pick. Our whichever new head coach comes in, that head coach can pick one. We pick the other. That happens often.
I'm not trying to, this is not a passing judgment on the job she did or anything. I'm just saying that it is extremely peculiar for a team to be like, this first year assistant has been retained while everyone else is gone, and the new head coach will then have to make a call. It's not a traditional path.
I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe they'll talk about this at the Avail, but I just don't know that this isn't a situation where this is Seattle saying, no, she's on the bench. That's our choice. That's our choice.
It could just be she's on the staff. She's upstairs. She's back doing a skills.
Could happen.
Coaching. Who's to say?
No.
Let's talk about Botterill for a second, because I've been absolutely filleted by half of Buffalo for having the nerve to say that I think he's a good GM who deserves another shot. Because apparently, what I've come to understand from my friends in Western New York is that while Terry Pegula has been the owner throughout this entire playoff drought, it is the few seasons that Jason Botterill was the general manager that is the reason the Sabres suck. I've come to realize that now. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Apparently that's the case.
This is all there were things.
He made mistakes. There's no question he made mistakes. Like bridging Sam Reinhart instead of signing him long term was a mistake. Maybe not getting other more valuable pieces in the Ryan O'Reilly trade, in which he traded a guy who didn't want to be there anymore. Oh, but he did get Tage Thompson. Maybe you can ding him for that. I'm not putting Brandon Hagel on Botterill. Like, I'm sorry. Like, no one knew Brandon Hagel was going to be Brandon Hagel outside of Julian Brisebois.
Or else they would have. Hang on. And about Hagel, if they really did know that he was going to be that good, they wouldn't have drafted him that late. There are plenty of other players that get drafted that late that are in the exact same situation that don't get signed.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
That has been brought up ad nauseum by people, and I'm sorry. Like, show me proof. Show me some proof. Go back to your blog. Go back to the Pat LaFontaine Appreciation Society.blogspot.com and go show me when you were outraged over Brandon Hagel walking away. Like, show me that. Show me your work. Because no one knew he was going to be Brandon Hagel. The Blackhawks didn't know he was going to be Brandon Hagel, or he would be on Connor Bedard's wing right now. Come on.
Listen, you can nitpick a ton of stuff. The one, and again, like, I don't know if this was Botterill or if this came from above. But there was the one draft where everybody was prepared and they'd all signed off that they were taking Martin Necas, and then when they stood up to make the pick, and they went and they picked Casey Middlestat. But that's gonna happen.
I think it came out that it was Botterill. Like, listen, I'm not saying the guy's perfect. It was his first job running a team. He made mistakes. I don't think he's the reason the Sabres are where they are. I think that's Terry Pegula. I really do. He's the through line.
Oh, by the way,
did Botterill make some mistakes in hiring the wrong people? Potentially, but we don't know necessarily what the hiring tree was for, like, Ralph Krueger. Was that Botterill or was that management? Who's to say? I don't know.
Here's another one. While we're talking about Terry Pegula here, I think it's today that he meets with Kevin Adams. And I think we're going to get a clearer picture of the future of Kevin Adams with the Buffalo Sabres in the next couple of days. I think it's today, maybe tomorrow, but I'm pretty sure it's today, is the meeting between Terry Pegula and Kevin Adams.
Yeah. What are you trying to say? You're trying to say, hey, Buffalo Sabres, say goodbye to your beards because Uncle Lou's coming home?
just do the carousel over to Buffalo. Place needs some discipline.
I mean, the last time Lou Lamoriello lost a job, he was in Toronto like 48 hours later. I mean,
all I'm saying is we always see, like, here's the thing though, we always see coach shuffles at this time of the year. It's just like the nature of the beast. You want to make your decision quickly and allow that person an opportunity to find another job. I think it's the kind thing to do if you're going to dismiss someone. But rarely do we see there's so much manager movement all at the same time, right? Ron Francis, no longer general manager. He gets the punt upstairs. We're going to see Kevin Adams is having his conversation with Terry Pagula. We'll hear that.
How did I not have my ringer on silent? This is so unprofessional. I got a new phone and I must have pressed the button. Sorry.
Why, did you get something?
Stupid. I got the ringtone going. He probably didn't hear it, and I probably just blew up my own spot mentioning it. You know what, there's one more thing that you seldom hear, and that is players, like star players, taking shots at their general manager. I know we're on Buffalo right now, but do you have a quick thought on what we heard from Dylan Larkin the other day about Yzerman at deadline? That's rare, but that's a bomb. That is a bomb from Dylan Larkin. It's a bomb, and I appreciated it because I think Yzerman has been not a disaster, but extremely underwhelming as GM of the Detroit Red Wings. A lot of that is obviously like bad lottery luck and what have you. But I mean, what is even the plan for this team? But what I'll say in Yzerman's defense is that it's not as if the Red Wings had necessarily earned the right to have major changes come to the organization. Like it wasn't as if they were scratching and clawing and had one finger on the top of the ladder. They're playing poor hockey. And so I will say in Yzerman's defense that you got to earn the reinforcements, because if you don't, then you've got to be Doug Armstrong about it and be like, you guys haven't earned the right to have all this augmentation and all these reinforcements and all these people to come to save the day, because this isn't a good enough hockey team to win. And so honestly, part of me is like that. Now, what I thought you were going to ask is about Rangers Breakdown Day, where I was as well. And
go for it.
The interesting thing about Rangers Breakdown Day was the talking around the managerial decisions of Chris Drury. The two things that really stood out to me in talking to guys like Zibanejad and Kreider and others, and I know that Zibanejad's been kind of criticized for saying that the way that Barclay Goodrow and Jacob Trouba were handled had a deleterious effect on the locker room, like put on your big boy pants and man up and don't worry about it. But listen, when management does, and I tried to get this out of Kreider, but he wouldn't go there. When management does those trades in the manner in which they did, threatening waivers on Trouba, putting Goudreau on waivers, like that really does not set well. And you know, Trouba being traded in December, look at the timing, folks. He gets traded, that team goes in the toilet for the next month. That's where the season was lost. So, you know, there has to be some responsibility for management when they do things that really kind of just, you know, kicks dirt in the face of its own players. And I think the things that Chris Drury did this season, the timing of things, the way he treated veterans, I truly think that this Rangers season was lost partially on the timing and the mismanagement of what Chris Drury and by virtue James Dolan decided to do with this Rangers team.
All right. Is there anything else? Because I do want to get your thoughts. We're 40 minutes deep into this show. We haven't talked about a single game yet. And I do
I'm going to say this about Lou.
And I do have one question for you about a very specific game. But go ahead about Lou.
Lou reminds me of Miranda Priestley from The Devil Wears Prada. Like, the minute you think that Lou is done, the minute you think that Lou is too old, the minute you shove Lou out the door, you realize he's had another thing in his back pocket this entire time. So while we joke about him going to the Buffalo Sabres, while we joke about what's next for Lou, this man is going to be involved in hockey until his dying breath.
I'll tell you, he's
the Islanders are his last stanza. I don't think anyone should assume that.
Before they went to Yzerman in Tampa, when Vinnick bought the team, he wanted Lou. That was the manager that he wanted, and ended up getting steered to Yzerman, who did have to be talked into it as well. But that was the original choice. Yes.
You use a word like steered, and go ahead and say who steered him there.
Probably the commissioner would have steered him there.
The commissioner of the National Hockey League, Gary Bettman, said you should hire Steve Yzerman.
Yep.
And Vinnick hired Steve Yzerman, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
Well, okay, the history is getting Stamkos, getting Hedman, getting Kucherov, getting Point, and having some really great draft luck. But Yzerman was also
and
there
signing
for it.
deeply, deeply discounted contracts.
and turning to a former lawyer as your head coach, who again,
That's
put
right.
in his time in Syracuse, but still,
There's been a couple of former lawyers in Tampa that have had like dramatic effects. Like for how many years was like Jay Feaster referred to as the curbside lawyer running the Hershey Bears?
Sure.
Good luck in the American. Yeah. And then the next thing you know, he's winning a Stanley Cup. And it's all I loved it. It's like that. The curbside lawyer just won a Stanley Cup. It's awesome. I don't want to. I miss Jay Feaster.
My Obi-Wan voice.
There's
a name I've not heard in quite a long time.
I missed the NHL with Jay Feaster. I really, really miss the NHL with Jay Feaster.
He was fun.
Okay, here's my question to you. First of all, last night was amazing. Every single game delivered. It was such great hockey. So to all of you folks out there that want to change the playoff format, remember it's your boy Jeffy that says you want the teams when they're the healthiest. That's right. That's why. Roll your eyes, Wish. You look at Dallas, Colorado, and how great that was yesterday. It's a travesty that these two teams are meeting so early. I'll take that all day long if we get hockey like that. But here's my question. I don't know who won a game. Who won the LA Edmonton game? Like, there's the score, but who won the? You know what I'm going at? Who won the game? Because I keep going back and forth. Now, technically, the Los Angeles Kings, with a couple of seconds left, Philip Deneau scores. A little bit of a breakdown from a couple of forwards on the Edmonton Oilers, but nonetheless, like Kings were up 1-0. But did they win the game? Because couldn't you make the argument that the Oilers won that game?
I think the Oilers won in the sense that look, you have to make declarative statements in playoff series. Like Montreal, they might have some juice left if they win game 2, but they could have really conjured up the ghosts of disappointments past in Washington if they had won game 1 in overtime. Like they still exist. The ghosts still haunt that arena, even with the cup win. I mean, I was getting questions about Yaroslav Halak all week. Okay, so they still have
Mike Camilleri, Kirk Muller.
Yeah, they still have that PTSD of disasters of playoffs past in Washington. So you needed to kind of probably win that game to really force the issue as an upset candidate. Yeah. And to your point, if the Kings had won 4-0, now all of a sudden, when Leon and Connor look across the ice and see those jerseys, they might be thinking in the back of their head, maybe it is different this time. They got Darcy Kemper. They were a really good defensive team this regular season. Maybe we're in a little bit of trouble here. Instead,
Connor.
What we have is exactly what we thought we could have coming into the series, which is we have Connor and Leon.
Yeah.
When they want to exert their will, they will exert their will. And we have the other part of the equation for Edmonton, which is a wildly inconsistent defensive team in front of goaltending you can't trust. And so we're right back at square one. Connor and Leon trying to outscore the flaws of the Edmonton Oilers. And you know what? They did. I mean, I know they didn't get the win, but they were one knuckle puck away from going to overtime and probably winning the game there.
It's kind of lost in the chat here, and I didn't get the name, and I apologize, but someone just mentioned that was a World Junior game. Like that third period felt like a junior game at Christmas time on the international stage. That's what that thing felt like. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it actually
all last night was great, but that third period specifically was incredible.
It felt very like a World Junior game because in the end, the Americans won.
Oh, that's cute. Oh, that's cute. Don't bring up the World Championships on the weekend. Okay, thank you. Let's just move that along.
Oh, what is? I'm sorry. Are we in Prague? Are we Finns?
U.S. won. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't bring that up while you're pouring salt on the wound.
Yeah,
the
that
women's.
Was huge. That was great.
Yeah,
Sorry, I thought
the
you
rock
were talking about
with
the men's World Championships. In which case, I say, are we Latvians or do we care about worlds? I think that was a declarative statement by the Oilers that they're going to be okay in the series.
Yeah.
But we've also seen other declarative statements, like Winnipeg winning game 1 of that series was so huge for them. you can't even quantify it. I mean, you can. They're up 2-0 now, but like Hellebuck didn't have his fastball.
No.
You know, the Blues are pressing the issue. In the back of your mind, you're the team that can't get past game 5 in the first round. You win that game, and now you're off to the races. Like, I would be absolutely stunned if they lose that series now, because now they've got the confidence and the wind in their sails. And then last night with Dallas, look at, man, we didn't want to put it on billboards. We didn't want to display it for the world to see. But we all knew that if Dallas loses that game, you might as well just pack up the tents.
It's over.
You could put Miro Heiskanen back on the ice in a robotic exoskeleton suit to allow him to play the rest of the series. It wouldn't have mattered if Colorado was up 2-0, going back to Denver, about to get Gabe Landeskog back in the lineup. So Colin Blackwell saved that series for fans, for the Stars, and for everybody else, because if they lose that game, my God, their goose is cooked.
You know, and here's another one. You know who is good in that game? Cody frickin' Ceci. For all the and there are plenty of them. They exist all over the NHL. You got to admit, Cody Ceci was good in that game. And that was no tomorrow for the Dallas Stars. And Cody Ceci was really good. He was.
There was one moment where he rushed the puck for the Stars in the attacking zone, and like the announcer said, like, here's Cody Ceci. I'm like, no, that can't be right. Surely that must be someone else on the roster. But there he was, and he was active, and he was effective, and he played really well. And again, like the Stars. The Stars reminded you why everybody was on their tip, why everybody was glazing them up to be a Stanley Cup champion last night. Like, even in their diminished capacity. And by the way, like, Jason Robertson's loss is felt so severely on that power play.
100%.
They gutted it out. They still got gamers. They still got guys that just give you everything they have. And taking over that game in the third period the way they did was really impressive.
I just don't know if they can keep up with Colorado. Like, I don't know if they can keep up with that pace. I just don't. Like, that was awesome last night. That was great. Good on Dallas. Amazing. Like, how many times can you, for how long can you try to keep up with Colorado?
You can't, because, again, essentially in that overtime, along with knowing if Dallas lost, the series was over, you were the whole basis of the overtime was, can they score before Nate does? Like, that's it. That's the whole ballgame. Can they score before Nate does? Yeah. Like, you were counting down the seconds until McKinnon makes a play to win that game. Can you get your goal before Nate ends it? And they did. Yeah. Out of again, and we talk about last night being amazing. I had it on the split screen. The Kings win that game, and then like 10 seconds later, the Stars win that game, and it was an unbelievable night of hockey. But fantastic. What makes the Stanley Cup playoffs is a guy scoring a goal in overtime who's on a 1-year contract, making league minimum. When Jim Nill signed Colin Blackwell last July, it probably doesn't even make the ticker at the bottom of the screen, as far as free agent signings go. And this guy wins the game. Like, that is due respect to the NBA and Major League Baseball, the NFL, whatever. That is the essence of why this is the best postseason in professional sports.
It's the best. Okay, let me finish with you here. With we save this for you at the end. Okay,
great.
Hang on. Time now. You get to look at food. Okay. First of all, you get to look at food.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Okay. Time now for the Crispy Inbox, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer. Enjoy this one.
Meet the first of its kind. The Ninja Crispy portable cooking system. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
All right, stop drooling, Wish. It is an all-in-one system.
I use my...
Go ahead.
Go. Sorry. I didn't mean to step.
No, I got a script read here. I got to be a professional broadcaster here.
Please.
This is what I didn't go to college for. It is an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max Crisp, bake, air fry, and re-crisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the description and stay tuned for a chance to win a free Ninja Crispy for one of our lucky fans. Now, the way to get in here for the inbox is thesheet@thenationnetwork.com. That's the email, thesheet@thenationnetwork.com. Wanted you to stick around overtime because this is probably a question more directed at you than at me. Zach, do we have the Ninja Crispy inbox question of the day from A_Russ on X? Is Tom Fitzgerald on the hot seat after this season? Huge letdown at trade deadline to get team depth scoring, large no movement contracts handed out left and right, majority of draft picks not panning out or traded. The Tom Fitzgerald question in New Jersey.
So it's a tough one because here's the thing. Jacob Markstrom is so far having a really good playoff through one game.
Yeah.
One game, I know. But like he played really well in game one. And so that was the biggest swing that Fitz took. And if that comes out to be a successful acquisition by virtue of how he plays in the playoffs, it's hard to ding him for that. He's made some other ones that kind of worked out. Cotter worked out. And there's some things that have happened to the Devils from a performance standpoint that aren't necessarily on him. Who thought that Dawson Mercer, who everyone was like, keep him out of the Timo Meier trade because you can't give up on this guy, would not take the leap? And he hasn't. All that said, should the Devils be thrilled with his performance as GM this season? I'd probably give him a B. I mean, there's definitely things about this team that don't work, but they're correctable. There are also things that I don't think you can necessarily blame him for. Simon Nemec being what he is right now from a progression standpoint, he's still got time. He's still super young, but no one had a problem with them taking him in the draft, And then the other thing about it too is that the ultimate answer to this question, Marek and our friends in the inbox, is he's got the ultimate cover story, which is that his best player, the team's franchise player, is not going to play in these playoffs. And that's it. That's the end of the story. I mean, like we can again, like DeBoer's name sometimes comes up as a guy who might have to lose his job if the Stars don't win this playoff series.
Yeah.
Well, how do you possibly fire Pete DeBoer even though you know that he is a coach of diminishing returns? How do you possibly fire him if they lose this playoff series without Robertson and Heiskanen? You can't. Just like you can't have Fitzgerald or anybody in the front office necessarily pay for what happens this season with Jack Hughes, being out of the lineup. And especially now it's Hughes, Siegenthaler, Luke Hughes, Brendan Dillon, all out of the lineup at the same time.
It's crushing. I know. I think all these series have the potential to go long. Even the Ottawa-Toronto one, I still don't think Ottawa's out of this thing. But I can't see Carolina and New Jersey going much past 4, maybe 5 games. I don't know. The Devils have a game. We'll see. In them.
They had their moments, but it's again like the biggest one for me right now is Luke Hughes, because the only way you're beating Carolina is if you can decrease the pressure in your own zone with their forecheck. The way you do that is to get the puck out of there or skate the puck out of there
quickly.
And Luke Hughes can do both, and now he's not there. So
you know who else? Who else is really good at that? And I just wonder about this randomly for no particular reason. Quinn Hughes. Yeah. He's really good at doing
Quinn
that.
Hughes is pretty good at that. I know. He's very talented. I wonder if he's got any reason to look at the Devils as a possible possibility. I cannot believe he's not getting fined for tampering. The man literally just sat there and being like, maybe we can take these two guys under contract on the Devils and bring them to Vancouver. Listen, and the NHL's just like, whatever.
When Rick Dhaliwal tweets, I listen. When Dhaliwal tweets, I listen. I believe
he popped the Werthers in his mouth afterwards.
Geez, you with the Werthers again?
Grandpa's sweater is making goofy fun talk and talking about other teams' players that are under contract. We don't need to enforce anything.
Okay. Well done. Bravo. We didn't break anything, I don't think, so it's a mission accomplished. Thanks. We'll talk in 7 days when things will become a little more clearer here with the playoff picture. But, like, honestly, dude, scale of 1 to 10, this has been off the charts how good early on this season the playoffs have been. Every single night it's been a treat. Oh, by the way, 11 o'clock tonight,
yes?
Minnesota, 11 o'clock Eastern. Man, just
Love
when we stopped hating, like, and I think it was Doug Wilson that started, just when we stopped hating Doug Wilson and the San Jose Sharks for the 10:30 starts, all of a sudden, here comes Vegas, Minnesota with an 11 tonight.
I'm a night owl to begin with. I'm more pissed off about the 6 o'clock start for the Devils game. Like, you gotta go get.
I like that.
I mean, I got a 1-year-old. That's like feeding time and stuff, man. I ain't gonna have time to watch too much of that game. So I'm all for the night game. The nightcap's great. Sit there with a little glass of scotch, sit back, watch. Hope that Kaprizov and Boldy can do anything to help this lineup. I mean, they were the offense in game 1. They'll probably be the offense in game 2. But
I'll tell you what, we've seen exciting games. But as I was mentioning this yesterday, as far as if you're just a pure fan of hockey. The best capital H hockey game was Vegas, Minnesota. That so far has been not the most exciting, over the top. Like Winnipeg, St. Louis game 1 was great. LA, Edmonton last night was fantastic. But if you're just a fan of like pure hockey, Minnesota Vegas was the best. It's the best game.
That's because we've had to wait 7 days to have the Battle of Florida tonight, which is like
to me
the most.
Are they playing?
Dallas, Colorado is the most compelling series. This is the one I really want to watch. I can't wait to see if 20 of us picked the Lightning in the ESPN experts picks. I'm a little concerned. I thought I was going to be an outlier. I thought everybody was going to be on the Panthers, but there's a lot of love for the Lightning. We'll see what happens.
So Hagel and Tkachuk have to fight off the draw, right? That's how we do this? That's how these things work now?
It has to happen. Just to bring the pressure down. Just to bring the pressure down a little bit. We'll see what happens. It's the Battle of Florida, baby. It's going to be great.
It's going to be good. It's going to be awesome. Thanks, bud. We'll talk soon. 7 days. There he is. Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. Every Tuesday here on the program. We did very little talk about the games. But when you have a day on the heels of Jim Rutherford, and we'll see what happens with Buffalo and Lou Lamoriello no longer in the mix, and who would have said that's 6 months ago, but here we are. Anyhow, we do have more games tonight, and all indications are it's going to be a continuation of the greatness that we've seen so far. The Sheet is powered by FanDuel, folks, home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. And what matters to us tonight are the 4 games. And yes, there's early. There's New Jersey and Carolina, game 2. Carolina leads the series 1-0. And Zach, I haven't heard from you much because bluntly Wish and I have sucked up all the oxygen here on the show. Markstrom starts, Anderson starts. It's like you want to make a list of more of the players that are in versus who aren't in because the length of the list is long for the New Jersey Devils. Brendan Dillon, Luke Hughes, out. Cody Glass is in after almost getting chopped in half by Jacob Markstrom in game 1. Dennis Chalowski and Simon Nemec. Didn't it feel like it was an old magician's trick? Watch, I will now chop my beautiful assistant's body in half and move these boxes.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we got that one. We've got Ottawa-Toronto game 2, so you are going to be busy pre- and post-game. Who's leading this series, by the way, Zach?
I think that you said yesterday on the show, it was pretty impressive. You didn't take any lead from me or anything. You said the Leafs thumped the Senators. I think that was what you said. I think those are the words.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me know when the swelling goes down. 1-0 Leafs in this one. Stolarz versus Linus Ullmark. Florida and Tampa, as Wish was just talking about a second ago. Vasilevsky versus Bobrovsky. Matthew Tkachuk is game time. Does anyone believe that?
Game time.
Game time. And speaking of game time, you're going to be staying up late for this game time. 11 o'clock Eastern, the Minnesota Wild and the Vegas Golden Knights, and I will keep saying it until I'm blue in the face. Last 5 years, Minnesota Vegas have made consistently the best hockey games that we've seen in the NHL. That's why I love this series. Vegas leads this one 1-0. Game 1 was a total thriller, and let's see what they have for the encore. Anything spice in your chili here on this one? Or is it just the obvious Leafs and Sens?
I mean, the 11 o'clock game is kind of silly in the grand scheme of it.
Why
But
not?
it's good for me because I told you, like, I missed a lot of the last one. Pretty much all of it other than really highlights. Like, that kind of sucks when I just don't get to see them. Like, last night I watched everything. That's exciting for me to get to see. Florida, Tampa is... I can't believe it took this long to get to this game. You know, like, it almost felt like at this point, like, the series just didn't exist. To be at Tuesday night where we had Saturday, Sunday, Monday full of games, to get to here and be like, oh, game one's kicking off. It's like, how did that happen? That one obviously is jumping out off the page to me, but yeah, I mean, Leaf Sens. We'll be at Greta Bar, Vic and I. We got Rosie calling into the show here tonight. Nice. We got people coming by. We had people in person joining us on the show last time on the After Dark, so that's going to be exciting as well. But
do you bring the salts when you do live event? Do you bring the salts with you?
Yeah. Well, I forgot them last time, and I got a lot of shit from people in the chat, so they will not be forgotten tonight. I've basically had them in my hands the entire time, just being like, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. So they'll be with me tonight. Yeah.
All right, tonight, Greta Bar, what time should people show up?
6:30 is the pregame show, so get there ahead of time. Obviously, 6:30 pregame show, though, and then we'll be there throughout the entire game, and then the After Dark show there as well.
Awesome. Love it. So you got to get hustling, and so do I. So listen, on behalf of Zach Phillips, our producer and occasional co-host here on the program, don't forget to check him out tonight. If you're in town in Toronto, go visit him and producer Vic on King Street at Greta Bar. That's an awesome place. Thanks to Greg Wyshynski for stopping by as always. Listen, it's been some newsy days here around hockey, and I think there's going to be more newsy days coming up on the horizon. We will always try to put a premium on the games because that is always most important. But when, as we like to say around these parts, folks, when news breaks, we fix it. How about that, Zach? How about that as our positioning statement for the program? When news breaks, we fix it. What do you think? Can you workshop? Can you workshop something around that for maybe something?
It's a good start.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Okay. See where we go.
Like, that's good groundwork. I would tell you, no, this stinks. That one's fine. You know what? I kind of like that idea. Yeah.
But the Shots 8-1? Yeah. No, that's still not growing on you? That one? No. When news breaks, we fix it? No, it's all right. Fine. One thing I do want to mention as we wrap up here, the program is heading to Ottawa for Game 3. So this show, The Sheet, will change start times for a couple of days. So tomorrow we're on the air at 3 o'clock Eastern as per normal on our Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. But then Thursday and Friday, we will be on 1 o'clock Eastern, and I think we're at the Canadian Tire Center for these games too, so that'll be really cool. So we're taking the show on the road for Game 3 between the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Battle of Ontario. Enjoy the games tonight. They're early and they're late. What can I say? The hockey's been awesome. Continue to enjoy it. We'll talk about it again tomorrow, and more off-ice news as well, I'm sure. The Sheet, Monday to Friday, 3 o'clock Eastern, right here on our Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. Join me tomorrow. In the meantime, enjoy the games. Talk to you in 23 hours. There we go. Bye. If you enjoyed that video, and we certainly hope that you do, please hit the subscribe button right there here at Daily Faceoff. I will put this lineup up against any hockey lineup anywhere. It all gets underway at 9 o'clock Eastern with Morning Cup of Hockey. That is Johnny Lazarus. That is Colby Cohen. Then at noon, it's DFO Live. And then 3 o'clock Eastern, The Sheet. Get caught up on everything in hockey.